I'm Graham Pass, Chairman of the West Berkshire Partnership. We believe that local services are essential to everybody. In West Berkshire, we believe these services can be delivered more effectively if well coordinated. That's why we've created the West Berkshire Partnership, to bring together local councils, the health services, the police, the fire services, local business community and voluntary organisations, as well as others. With a clear understanding of the challenges we face over the long term, this partnership has launched a strategy so that organisations working together can better meet real needs of the people of West Berkshire. The first part of this video paints a picture of West Berkshire, the place and its people, highlighting the defining characteristics of the district, from rural Lambourne in the west through Newbury and Thatcham to the more urban east of Tilehurst, Calcott, Purley and Pangbourne. The second part of this video goes on to look at the challenges we face over the long term and shows how the strategy, which we've called a breath of fresh air, aims to tackle them.
We're here at junction 13 of the M4, which lies in the centre of West Berkshire. Indeed, it actually lies in the centre of southern England. Around 15 miles up the road here towards Swindon lies the southwest region, while 50 miles to the east here lies London and on the way the Thames Valley. Our location, literally on the edge of the southeast region alongside the southwest, is one of the key defining elements of West Berkshire. We have the economic strength of the Thames Valley, but at the same time a richness in the countryside that is often characteristic of the southwest. Junction 13 is a very good example of West Berkshire's strategic location. We have the M4 running between London and Bristol and South Wales, and at the same time the A34, which links the south coast with the South Midlands. Together they demonstrate the ease with which one can get to West Berkshire and also the relative ease with which you can get around the district, although it has to be said, with some ease if you have a car. Our strategic location is not just limited to roads. Heathrow lies around 40 miles away and can be reached within less than an hour. We also have two major railways running through the district. The first, the London to South Wales line, runs along the Thames Valley to the north. The second, the London to Penzance line, runs through the Kennet Valley with a number of stations in West Berkshire. West Berkshire has a population close to 150,000 and continues to grow at a rate below the national average. The population profile is also close to the national average, slightly younger, particularly within the 30 to 40 age group. In common with the rest of the country, the population is ageing, with a significant increase expected over the next few years in the number of over 65s and a slight reduction in the number of under 18s. Like much of the Thames Valley, the economy here in West Berkshire is very strong. Economic activity rates, in other words the number of people who are in work, are very high. Indeed, they are above the regional average. Unemployment is also very low, although there are certain parts of the district where it is somewhat higher than we would like. West Berkshire also has a very mixed economy with a strong and buoyant manufacturing sector. Indeed, the proportion of people working within the manufacturing sector in West Berkshire is above both the Berkshire and regional average. Along with that, we have a large number of businesses operating in the district, some 6,500, which has increased by around 10% since the beginning of the decade. And one interesting statistic is there are significantly more, about 2,000 more businesses operating in West Berkshire than next door in Reading. Although we do have a large number of small and medium-sized businesses, we also have some pretty big firms. The atomic weapons establishment in Aldermaston and Burfield employs around 6,000 staff. Vodafone here in Newbury employs around a further 4,000, and West Berkshire Council employs a similar number. To the west, the racecoursing industry employs around 1,000 staff, and to the east, around Theale, there are significant employers like Arlington Securities, KPMG and Walker Foods. West Berkshire has good schools, and as a result educational attainment is well above the national average, and we have a policy of protecting small schools, particularly those in the rural community. A growing population and a growing economy mean that we need to build more houses. At present we're constructing around 500 houses per annum. House prices, however, are a major issue in West Berkshire. They're above both the national and regional average, and as a result affordable housing is a major local issue. At present we have over 3,000 people waiting to be housed in the district. In response to that, we're building around 150 new affordable homes each year. Although West Berkshire has a crime rate below that of many of our Berkshire neighbours, crime has been increasing here since 2005. There has now been a small reduction since October 2006. However, the main issues here in West Berkshire remain criminal damage, burglary, assault and vehicle crime. Most of the crimes actually take place along the Kennet Valley between Newbury and the east of the district in Theale and Calcott. Crime remains the biggest issue for local residents in West Berkshire. It's currently cited as the #1 issue to resolve in terms of improving local quality of life. Life expectancy is above both the regional and national average. The main causes of death are coronary heart disease, stroke and cancer. Having said that, a high number of teenage conceptions and childhood obesity are issues in some parts of the district. Social deprivation is also an issue. In areas such as Greenham, Clayhill, Calcott and Lambourne, there are real issues in terms of educational attainment and household income levels. In other parts of the district, deprivation can be quite hidden. In the rural areas, isolation is an issue, and even in some of our most affluent areas, there are pockets where deprivation is quite prevalent. We've already talked about the wealth and diversity of West Berkshire's countryside. Over 75% of the district is designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty. We also have a large number of sites of special scientific interest and a wealth of wildlife heritage sites. Culture forms an essential part of community life here in West Berkshire. From traditional activities such as museums and theatres to the less formal such as leisure centres, libraries and outdoor pursuits. There are a range of factors, notably the economy and the environment, that bring West Berkshire together as one place. However, you can also identify 3 distinct areas within the district. The first of these is the Kennet Valley. This runs from Hungerford in the west all the way through to Theale in the east. It is where most people in West Berkshire live, and it is also where most of the economic activity takes place. There are good transport links running all the way through the valley, including the A4, the London to Penzance Railway and the Kennet and Avon Canal. As this is the area where most of the population is concentrated, it is also where some of the most challenging social issues are facing the district. Along the eastern fringe of the district lie the suburban settlements of Calcott, Tilehurst and Purley. Around 35,000 people live here. The area is predominantly residential and looks towards Reading, and as a result there is good access to a range of facilities both within West Berkshire and Reading. The rest of the district, known as the Downlands, is rural in nature and by comparison has a relatively dispersed population. Facilities can be limited and transport provision is often quite scarce. Rural isolation can become a particular issue in this area.
The second part of this video goes on to look at the challenges we face over the long term and shows how the strategy, which we've called A Breath of Fresh Air, aims to tackle them. We would very much value your views to help us develop the strategy even further.
We have wonderful local countryside, excellent local amenities with the racecourse, the theatres, a very strong food and drink culture developing increasingly at the moment. House prices are very high in this area and that can drive up wages, which means that even if the employees are available, you can't afford to hire them. If people can't get affordable housing in this area, then they will have to come in from a distance. That in itself is a problem because that normally means high turnover of staff if they have to travel a long way, but also it means there's tremendous pressure on the roads. And the roads can't take a lot more pressure, especially the local roads around Newbury, so we need more affordable housing and we need better transport infrastructure if we want to keep West Berkshire at the forefront.
Extrac are manufacturing Formula One gears and internal components for all sorts of motor racing vehicles. We've been based in Thatcham now for 7 years. We moved here from our base which was previously in Wokingham in Berkshire. The company's really enjoyed some success since moving here. In fact, the first year we moved here, we had our best year ever, and it's just carried on growing since that point. One of the other benefits we found in the area is the links that we have with the schools and colleges. When we first came to the area, everyone was amazed that we were going to be running engineering apprenticeships. Extrac is very active in that area, and we take on 3 to 4 apprentices each year. And for those we access the local schools and then we send them to a course that's been designed for ourselves and some other companies in the area at Newbury College. So we're really enjoying good relationships there.
And one of the challenges for the district is to actually make sure that everybody can access services in an effective and efficient way. Buses potentially have a role to play in that, but it's much more difficult to organise effective bus services when you're dealing with a dispersed rural population than with a compact urban population. Some of the initiatives that have been brought in to try to encourage car sharing, for example, and to try to avoid congestion arising on the road, like flexible working, whilst it's very convenient for individuals and encourages people to go back to work because they can have flexible working patterns, it's actually very bad news for bus services. What bus services need is large quantities of people all travelling at the same time. We still have a reasonably good railway link into London. Issues about the frequency of the service and the punctuality of the service still arise on a regular basis. And of course, historically, we had the advantage of the canal system running right through the centre of the town. Not used for transport purposes commercially anymore, but an enormously useful leisure facility for the district.
Well, it's no secret that crime has increased over the last couple of years in West Berkshire and quite dramatically against the baseline figure of 2003-04. But I think we need to put these figures in context. We're in a totally different operational environment now. We've now got the National Crime Recording Standards. This enables us to take a victim-orientated approach, and indeed the government introduced NCRS because they took the view that there was a substantial difference between official recorded statistics and what the members of the community were saying in the British Crime Survey. We introduced NCRS to actually make that difference much narrower, and therefore it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone that we actually do record and work in an environment where it appears that we've actually got more crime than we once had. Antisocial behaviour has been an increasing problem for us over the last couple of years, and therefore we take great efforts with our partners in the council and indeed the other agencies to try and resolve antisocial behaviour issues in their infancy. For example, one of the operations that we've run is Operation Fascia, and that's around early intervention. It's about actually identifying where groups of youngsters are located and actually getting out there and interacting with them before they involve themselves in behaviour that escalates into full criminality. Speeding is an issue for us, and again, with our partners in the Highways Agency and the local council, we try to determine through a problem-solving approach what exactly is the issue and what steps we can actually take. Sometimes that'll be traffic calming measures, sometimes it'll actually be enforcement. On many occasions, speeding is perceptional, and when we actually go out there and run enforcement operations, on some occasions the perception does not reflect the accuracy of what is actually going on. We need to reassure members of the community that we are focusing on the issues that matter to them. To that end, we've been helped enormously by the influx of police community support officers that we've recruited over this last year. By the end of this year, we should have 26 of them out and about on the ground, and this will make us much more visible.
One of the biggest problems we have is fly tipping, and this is linking back now to our work that we're doing on recycling. What we need to do is educate people, because fly tipping, I think last year there were over 1,000 cases of litter being dumped in beautiful areas like this. From memory, it's about 87-88 tonnes of material was removed very efficiently, very promptly by the council, but it shouldn't have been dumped there in the first place. And that's why I think we should be very careful how we site and where we site recycling facilities to make it easy for the public to use. Well, this is Bucklebury Common. Now, this part has undergone considerable clearance, as you can see. The intention was that the heather seeds, which were lying in the ground for 20 to 30 years, would regenerate, and indeed they have. It's flowering. One of the ways the district is intending to reduce its carbon footprint is by applying the BREEAM standards of excellence in its building regulations for new build. This will effectively mean that 10% of energy will have to be from renewable sources. Methods such as, in new build, ground source heat pumps, photovoltaic cells where any excess electricity generated can be sold back to the national grid, solar panels, wind generation. Now, the challenge for Cleaner and Greener is actually to apply this to existing housing stock of the district. That is the challenge I accept readily. We're very mindful of climate change at West Berkshire, and with the intention of reducing carbon footprints as much as possible, recycling from the curbside, we're going to enhance this to cover both plastic bottles and cardboard. This, of course, will mean that fewer motorists will have to drive to the public recycling sites. It's a very well-used service. As you can see from all the bottles being loaded into the lorry behind me, everybody along this road, I think, has got a recycling bin or two out. So I have high hopes. We've set very ambitious targets to increase curbside recycling from about a quarter, 25% of what is recycled now, to around 50% in 4 years. I think we've got the public behind us. Here we are at one of our waste recycling sites at the Waitrose car park in Thatcham. Here people can recycle clothes, paper, glass, and as you can see behind me, plastic, which is very popular. West Berkshire is taking recycling very seriously. We've increased our rate of recycling over the last 2 years by about 7 or 8%, and we've set the ambitious target of increasing that to 50% recycling over the next 4-year period. Also, when the new recycling site comes on stream, people will find that very much more convenient to load their cars with an even wider variety of items they can recycle. We already recycle at the existing facility waste oil, batteries, green waste, computer screens, computer equipment, and also for the community furniture project, we recycle furniture to give to those in need.
Welcome to the Pot Kiln at Frilsham. I'm Mike Robinson. I'm the chef and owner of this establishment. We don't buy our beans from Kenya, things from all over the place. West Berkshire is crammed and heaving with fantastic, wonderful produce. We've got crayfish traps. We take them down to the River Kennet. We set them using some of the fish skeletons from the pub here. We catch tons and tons of wild crayfish, which are an environmental menace and are absolutely delicious to eat. We go direct to the farms. We buy from these small farmers who produce the most wonderful produce, very, very small quantities, absolutely delicious. Pick individual animals once every week or so. Just look at these courgettes. That plant was picked last night and that's regrown. So the quantity you can get from a small area of land is absolutely stellar. I believe that people like myself should be doing this. We should be growing our own ingredients. We should be making the most of local ingredients, supporting local farmers in the West Berkshire area, which, as I say, is one of the best places for good local produce in the country.
I believe that the community strategy or partnership priorities are good ones in terms of prosperity for the whole area, dealing with the skills gap, housing, education, the economy. If we get that right for the wider community, but apply those same principles even for the minority community, then you can't go wrong. The sixth one, which is services and making those accessible, if you start with those and particularly having that attention to language, music, heritage, culture, religious worship, or any other kind of worship, whether it's football or any other sport, but making that available to those communities, then that in itself will help, because that will be the beginning of building the confidence with that community, but also the start of two-way traffic.
Underpinning the future for West Berkshire is working with the whole community and tackling issues such as here in Calcott with graffiti, which can be blighting our local neighbourhoods. There are a number of vulnerable people across the community, and with an ever-growing ageing population, we need to be mindful of this when planning for services across West Berkshire, but particularly in areas where we know that there's a large concentration of people who are an elderly population.
Such as here in Calcott, which is one of the most deprived super output areas that West Berkshire has.
Here in Royal Avenue, we're in one of the second most deprived parts across the whole of West Berkshire. One of the other things that's particularly important is increasing youth provision, and you'll see examples of facilities that are available within the community, working with local parishes to make a real difference so that young people are kept off the streets and aren't undertaking antisocial behaviour, but developing key skills that will work with them throughout their whole entire lives.
What we have just seen highlighted are what local people have agreed to be the main issues for the district. These have formed the basis of our strategy, a breath of fresh air. And this is what the West Berkshire Partnership is prioritising for local residents across the district from now until 2025. To recap, they are as follows. Firstly, in order to build a more prosperous district, we plan to reduce the skills gap, provide the right housing for all, increase employment for particular groups of people, increase employment in the rural areas, and boost the retail economy in Newbury and Thatcham. To create a more accessible district, we want to help limit future traffic growth, improve accessibility in the rural areas, and ensure local services are accessible. Then, to create a greener district, we need to protect the countryside, increase the use of renewable energy, reduce waste and increase recycling, increase the take-up of locally produced food, and increased green travel. To make the district safer, we want to reduce crime and the fear of crime, reduce the amount of antisocial behaviour, and reduce speeding on our roads and traffic-related injuries. And finally, to build a stronger district, we plan to create a sense of belonging to West Berkshire, reduce health inequality for older people, help young people enjoy and achieve more, help more older people live independently, and ensure the safety of vulnerable people. I hope you found this video informative. The strategy, A Breath of Fresh Air, can be found on the West Berkshire Partnership website, or you can call 01635 519 102 for a copy.